This is step 2 of the master budget. So this step, the required is prepare the production budget for the number of units for each month in the first quarter of the year. So the number of units, well, first of all, we always start off with the number of units that you are going to be selling each month. So that would be 20,000 for January, 22,000 for February, and 23,000 for March. So the next thing is you want to make sure that you don't run out of inventory. So at the end of the month, you always need to have some inventory to start your work for the following month. So in this case, the company is telling you that they want to make sure they have 10% of the following month's sales on hand, so they have enough and they don't run out. So we're going to take at the end of January, you want to have 10% of February. So that's equal to times your February sales, which is 22,000. So that gives you 2,200. In February, again, you want to make sure you have 10% of March sales on hand at the end of February. So that's equal to 0.1 times your 23,000. And finally, at the end of March, you want to have 10% of April's on hand. So it's equal to 0.1 times your expected number of sales, unit sales for April, which is 25,000. So at the end of March, you want to have 2,500. So when you're doing your totals over here for the quarter, while for the first line, the number of units of sales, you do add those across. That will be a cumulative number. But what you have to remember here is your ending inventory, this is not cumulative. So at the end of the quarter, it is equal to March. And that's something that a lot of students miss out on and lose marks. So you have to be careful when you're deciding which numbers you're going to add in total to be cumulative, which would be your sales, obviously. But in terms of your ending inventory, remember the end of the quarter is equal to the end of the month. So the next piece of information is your beginning inventory. So you would have had, because you had this policy of maintaining 10%, so in December, at the end of December, you would have kept on hand 10% of January sales. So you would have had 2,000 in your beginning inventory. So that would be equal to, just to times 20,000. So 2,000 is what you would have started with in January. In February, you're starting with January's ending. So that's 2,200. And in March, you're going to be starting with the February's ending will be March's beginning inventory. So you take that to be your 2,300. And here, this is another item you have to be aware of. So what this line says here, your beginning inventory at the beginning of the quarter is January. So the beginning of the quarter is the first month and the end of the quarter is the third month. So that schedule now shows you how many units you need to produce each month to meet that month's expected sales, plus to have a sufficient quantity on hand to have 10% of the following month's sales to start off with. So that concludes part 2 of the master budget.